Previously on Flaming Galah YouTube channel. It's just a process and you never skip a step, you make a good beer. Let's have a sip first. Agitate ours, whatever you want. Relieve our pressure. 5-minute edition. 9! Cup of tea. The other time. Fuck. Look at that, all that tea's settled out now. Now I'm stuck. Hey brewers, welcome back. We knocked out last episode, oxygenated the wort and pitched the yeast. That was back on the 9th to the 10th. It is now the 23rd. Yep, 23rd. So we've finished fermentation, cold crush yesterday. Today we're gonna dump the cone, add the fruit, did a sensory evaluation prior to pressing record. And we're gonna add some tea in the fermenter in a hop bag. And this is gonna give us just aroma. We've still got a little bit of tea taste, which is nice. First things first, this is our DO chair. So what we're gonna do now is check our dissolved oxygen. The reason we're gonna do this is we don't wanna waste this next bit of product, which will be the fruit, which is fairly expensive, and also the tea again is quite expensive. So we don't wanna add them to the fermenter and waste that product. The other reason too, we want a baseline of our uncarbonated beer. We're gonna open the dry hop port and put the tea in and the lemon puree. So we want a baseline DO, and then once we're carved, we check again and see if we picked up any dissolved oxygen along the way. With our dissolved oxygen meter, a bit of a hot tip is you refrigerate it first so it cools down the sensor, and that way you don't have to run as much product through it. So I'll just grab that now. So pre-chilled the DO meter, I'll switch him on, or switch her on, her name's Beverly. If they sponsor us, we'll do a video on it. If they don't, you know the rules, they can get. All right, first things first, we're gonna sanitize we'll switch on the DO meter. We're gonna sanitize our sample port. Paracetic acid, isopropyl. Same on the connection point. This is a custom connection point. Learn to weld if you wanna be a brewer. Learn to weld stainless. All right, so we're gonna crank this right up so we get a good DO reading. We don't want any surrounding oxygen to go through our dissolved oxygen meter. I'm also gonna grab a bucket so you don't put piss all over the ground. If you're a bit closer to the drain, you can just run it directly into the drain. That's it, so DO meter's on. We're gonna check our measurements, parts per billion, because we pre-chilled in the fridge. So we're gonna run that flat out first. So remember, this is just uncarbonated beer, so it'd be between 1 to 1.7 volumes of CO2. And now we're just gonna slow that down so we don't waste too much product. Probably wasted out 2 schooners doing a DO check, and all we're looking for is stable temperature and stable dissolved oxygen. What it's doing, it's running the finished beer, uncarbonated obviously at the moment, through the DO sensor and then out. We're slowly going to come down in temp. The tank's set to 0.5, but you lose temperature along the way. You know, we'll sit at about 3 or 4 degrees by the time we roll through the machine. Right, so just going to slowly close that valve a bit. I'm going to slow the product down through the DO meter. Anything above 50 parts per million, I dump down the drain. Ideally, I want to see this at 10, uncarbonated, between 10 and 15 parts per billion on the dissolved oxygen. All right, so we're under the 15 parts per billion. We're at 14, sort of stabilising now, flashing between 13 and 14 parts, which is pretty good. We're uncarbonated at the moment, 13 parts per billion at this point. So we've now got a baseline. I don't have a texter, but with my texter, I'm going to write that on there. So we've got our stable now at 2.2 degrees C because we're losing that. We're 0.5 in the tank, but we're gaining heat. We're at 13 parts per billion on the DO. So we've got our baseline DO, which is 13 ppb. So that's before we've carbonated. So shut that off now. The reason we take these numbers is, like I said, we're going to remove the dry hop port and it'll just be a good indication of where we end up. So, you know, if we spiked a lot on DO, we'd maybe change the way we'd add the fruit or add the tea on the next batch. If we stay around our baseline, we know we're sweet. You need to take these baseline measurements the whole way along, and then we can debrief the beer at the end of the video and change different things. So that's the DO number for now. we'll clean our DO machine. Like I said, if you want to see me do a full video on this, put a comment in the description. Is it? Is that where you comment? No, leave a comment if you want to see me do a full video on DO, and we'll send all the comments to the manufacturer of this device. See if we can get a sponsor. All right, switch him off, clean it up, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we've got 2 kilos of the Earl Grey tea again from Berry Tea Shop, and we've got a couple of good old-fashioned hop socks, food grade nylon. Gonna add the tea. So this is gonna give us a big aroma charge of the Earl Grey. You're gonna have to help me cut. So this is gonna remain in the fermenter till we package. So that's gonna determine when we package too, with the sensory evaluation. Hold. What's the secret? If you can't tie knots, tie lots. Lucky I can tie knots. We're just gonna do a reef knot, Claire, okay? Okay, brewers. Right over left, left over right.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's a reef knot. Depends how shaky you are though. Right over left, left over right. It's one. Nothing's a problem. So I asked Claire to tie off the bottom of the bag before, and she didn't, so it's definitely my fault. Damn. Right over left, left over right. Reef knot, motherfucker. Righto, next step. So we've checked the DO, we're happy with that to continue. We're gonna dump the cone now. So all that's on this beer at the moment is yeast, so there's no dry hop, nothing else. So we're just gonna remove all the yeast off the beer. We're at 0.5 degrees, so it all precipitated out last night. We're just doing a paracetic acid clean. Do a video on dumping the cone. I'll put it in the description below. I won't, but C will. I don't do anything. I'm the talent. Nah. So once again, 20 litre bucket, paracetic acid. Go back and check that video out, it's a good one. Right, and just one quick thing. So we've got 1.5 bar in this. That's 15 PSI. Yes, we do have oxygen in the sight glass at the moment. We also have trub all the way up to about here. It's gonna be our yeast cake. You can even hear it when I open this butterfly valve. You'll hear the 1.5 bar push it out. Boom, and then we've got a stopper of the trub, so you won't pick up any DO. But once again, we've got a baseline of our DO, so we don't want to go under that. He's shy, a bit shy geezer. There's our beer now, yeast's off. Just going to run it a bit longer just to bring it off the sides. The reason we use a diaphragm valve is because if I was just to open the butterfly valve, the product, the beer, we just punch a hole through the yeast cake and push straight out, and we'll have all this yeast stuck to the side of the cone. Yeah, and it'll defeat the purpose of dumping the cone. All right, now that's done. Next. Yeah. Hey! Right, now we're gonna dump the CO2 out of the top of the head, take our head pressure out. You can see this on a previous video, how to dry hop a NEPA. So we've left our blow off bucket on, see here. And then we've got our secondary sanitizer there. When we open this valve, we're going to lose a lot of sanitizer. We'll throw the new sani in. Got our auxiliary CO2 bottle ready to go. Set to 10 pound. So now we're blowing through CO2. It was much more graceful than on the last video. So let that last bit out. Righto, now we're blowing CO2 through, and we've created that barrier again of CO2, positive atmosphere, pushing out. So now we can open the dry hop port and add our tea. So now we've got 95.6% ethanol. The reason we're using ethanol is because it's food grade. And we're gonna soak our tea in it to sterilise. We're gonna lose tea pretty quick out of that, so we need to be quick. Yeah, should add all this fucking ready. Bring our ethanol, soaked tea, isopropyl. And this is the reason we're using ethanol, because it's gonna go in straight in the beer. Dry hop port straight back on. Gonna build that atmosphere again, positive atmosphere. And we're gonna get ready to go again. Straight in on the tea. Now we've got some tea-based vodka there if you want to drink that. Gloved up too. Don't do that at home, kids. So we're still continuing with the atmosphere, positive atmosphere. Ethanol down the tradeways because now it's contaminated with the tea. Many drunks out there would shed a tear. So we've got our positive pressure still in the tank, maintaining by the blow-off bucket. Still got our gloves on. Now we're going to add 10 kilos of lemon, and then we're going to do a taste test. As we add the lemon, what we're going to do, we're going to rouse the tank through the carb stone. It's getting late, I can't think of words. This is going to roll the beer and mix the lemon throughout, and it's also going to still create that positive atmosphere in the tank and push out the blow-off arm. But in this instance, we're not going up the CIP. We're rolling the beer, what's the other word? Agitating the beer. We're going to add 20 kilos to start with. Taste test, and then if we need the extra 20, we'll do it. So like I said, we're going to add 20 kilos of the lemon puree, but what we're actually going to do now is rouse the beer through the carb stone. We won't create any gushing because the yeast have been removed and it's also at 0.5 degrees C. Good looking young rooster there, son. Now we're going to rouse the beer through the carb stone. Carb stone's flat out. Isopropyl again. Fucking eat. Stop filming and get that back to me. Now, brewers, this is real sweat. This is real anxiety. When adding fruit to a fermenter, if you're not using a dose vessel, you should always do it with 2 people and one of them shouldn't be filming. We're in. All right, we're gonna run this now for 3 minutes and then we're gonna test the beer and see if we're happy with it. If not, we're gonna add more lemon. Good idea to have an offsider when you're doing something like that. Yeah, because it's a 2-person job. You start talking like an old man, brewers. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Definitely tastes of lemon. It's starting to get the tea. That tea will take a while. Have a taste. It's not bad. I think we add the puree. Well, I'm getting the tea now massively. Righto, brewers. We've done the sensory analysis and we're going to add more lemon puree. Catch me if I fall. Open up the carb stone. That's it. This is the only time we need a second brewer here, look, to add fruit. So once again, we're blowing through the carb stone and we're rolling the beer, and then that's creating a CO2 atmosphere. It's in the top of the tank. Now I'm using the bag as well, like the lemon puree bag, as a dry hop port cover. So I'm not letting any oxygen in now. And we've got that positive atmosphere in the beer. We're rolling the beer with the carb stone and we're using the actual puree bag as a dry hop port cover. That's it, that's added. Dry hop port cover back on. And that's how you add fruit to a fermenter. Definitely not like that shit show that happened on the first edition. Now we're just going to evacuate any DO or oxygen that was caught in the top of the fermenter out to the blow-off arm. Just going to run that for a bit. It's also going to mix the beer and the lemon puree together. And remember, we've got 2 kilos of Earl Grey that we've thrown in for dry hop for aroma only. So that's it for now. And now we're going to run this for about 3 minutes and then we're going to close the arm, pump up the tank, and we'll start to carb it. I've hurt my neck, as you can tell, carrying the brewery on my shoulders. So that's 40 kilos we added. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's not even carved yet and we already want to drink it. That's a good sign. We're just going to disconnect now off our carb stone. And we're just going to jump back on again and then just continue to run and evacuate out any oxygen we picked up. We shouldn't have picked up too much. But remember, we've got our baseline DO too, so we can always refer back to that. We've got to stop saying we're back because we never leave. Hi brewers, this is our 20-minute checks. So we're going to check our temperature, which we have on the PLC. We're at 0.5 degrees C, where we want to be. We're at 12 pound on our head pressure. Using our spunding valve, we're maintaining a head pressure of 10 pound, and we've also got 30 pound on our reg coming through into the uni tank, and that's rolling the beer and mixing it so it's even carbonation. Also, our start was 80.25 kilos, so we're going to go check our scales and make sure we've got positive flow in. So we're maintaining 30 psi in on our reg. That jumped up a bit, so I'm just going to bring it back to the 30 psi. You can see now we're on the scale 79.00, so we've got positive CO2 into the uni tank. The next day, carbonation has finished. It's been 12 hours to let it wet. So we've carbonated in 14 hours. very quick, ready for package. We've carbonated this to 3.2 volumes and it's spot on. Today, what we're going to do, brewers, is rouse the fermenter. Stir it, mix it, agitate it, that's what we're doing. We're going to rouse it through the bottom port, the dump valve, paracetic acid, clean her up, and then we're going to use our isopropyl, 70%. Now our components are soaking in paracetic acid. I'll just explain why we're going to mix the fermenter. So when we've added the fruit, and then last night after we carbonated and it wet, the fruit will precipitate out of the beer, and what we want to do, we want to mash CO2 up and into the fermenter and basically mix the fermenter. That's what we're doing. And we don't want to introduce any oxygen, so we're going to grab the DO meter and we're going to set it to percentage. This time I'll show you how we do that. T-piece to start with. Nice and tight on all your clamps. Then we've got a stickle if you're a wanker. So then you've got our sample port, and then we're going to have our CO2 quick connect. All soaked in paracetic acid for over 10 minutes. Okay, now I'm going to grab the CO2. We've set our reg to 45, 50 pound roughly. So we don't want to have any of the product come back towards the T-piece. We want to blow the CO2 up, and we're going to agitate the product and mix and stir it. Let us know if you want us to do a full video on this DO meter, and then what we'll do, we'll contact the dogs that manufacture it, no, the company that manufactures it, and try and get us like a discount code or something like that. So turn him on. Just going to start by purging. Just a slow purge through, and we're going to set up our device, which I've already set it up. It's now in percentage, not parts per billion. I'll just show you how it works. Yeah. See, that's my oxygen back through that I just blew through. 13.64% oxygen and whatever else I blew out of me. Gonna crank that up tight, and then we're gonna run, and you can... So we're evacuating any oxygen out. So this is why we're working in percentage. Going to run that away from us, and now we can just slow that flow down on the verbally. So this is now the percentage of oxygen that we've got in the T-piece, the quick connect, and the front of the butterfly valve. So that's 0%, so I'll shut that off. We know we have 0% oxygen in this section of the rouser, Scheisen rouser. Right, so we know we've got 50 pound ready to run in, we've got 0% oxygen, and now we're just going to rouse it by opening the butterfly valve. You hear it mix, shut it off. Hear it mix again, shut it off. Again, and you just want to keep an eye on your head pressure now too. You don't want to go too high in your head pressure. And that's it. So we're just mixing that fruit that would have precipitated last night down to the bottom of the cone. So we're punching all that lemon back up into the beer. And we're also going to agitate those tea bags that we've got in there. And that'll do us. So we know we haven't introduced any dissolved oxygen or oxygen that will turn into dissolved oxygen into the uni tank. Now you just pull it apart, and that's how you mix or stir a fermenter without introducing any dissolved oxygen. Isopropyl the dump valve, and then we're going to take a sample. Earl Grey Sour. You can see, if you have a look up and close, you can see that lemon. So it will clear out a little bit more. What time is it? 12. I'm going to have to drink from the beaker, just so no one talks about me. If you drink from a beaker, you're not an alcoholic. Remember those, what were they called? Lemon ice block. Remember them? They were like real cheap. They were 50 cents as a lemon ice block. Yeah, you used to sell them at servos. Yeah. Icy pole, that's what they were called. Yes, that's what it tastes like. And then you get the bergamot and tea as well. When you bring the glass to your nose, you get it. It's not overly tart, 3.4, and you get lemon and water on the back end because it's only 4%. So it's a light finish with the lemon. So if I close my eyes, I can be back in Seoul.
Look at that. Oh, lemony. That's like, it's like what you brought back from Seoul. Now, if you don't like sours particularly, that's all right, I'll drink them. But that, if that stays in the same character,
I'm going to get a little bit more tea, I think.
That'd be good. A little bit more tea aroma.
Yeah.
It's a great combination of the tea and the sour, and the lemon, sorry. Yeah. Great combination. That is beautiful. You've done well, mate.
You say that.
Well, brewers, it worked out really well. Wanking aside, heaps happy with it. We got nice lemon, sort of tastes like an icy pole, if you remember the old icy poles. Got a light back end, sort of watery back end, which is expected with a 4% beer. Up front, you get a massive hit of citrus with the lemon. We ended up using 40 kilos of lemon, so you get a massive hit of that lemon at the start and the citrus of that low pH, so on the mouth feel. And then on the nose, we get the Earl Grey tea. For the aroma, you get that bergamot on the nose. Very subtle, which is very similar to the beer we had in Seoul. You want to have a beer, you don't want to have a cup of tea. So it's got that subtle tea taste, and as the beer warms up, you get more and more of that tea on the back end. It's really nice, really happy with it. There is a couple of things I would change in the technique. I think we can utilise the tea more just as a dry hop rather than in the whirlpool. The yeasts tend to metabolise a lot of that tea during fermentation. So I think I'd pull back 2 kilos on the whirlpool edition. So we'd just go in for 1 kilo in the whirlpool. That'd also help that we wouldn't transfer any across to the fermenter. That'd save us 2 kilos in the whirlpool edition. We ended up using 4 kilos for the dry hop, so into the fermenter. That was plenty, 4 kilos is perfect. I just pulled 2 kilos out of the whirlpool edition. Otherwise, I'm so happy with it. Really stoked that we pulled it off, bit of a fluke. Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe I am a professional brewer. So we did 2 kilos on the first dry hop edition. As we mentioned in the previous videos, we were adding things slowly and then doing sensory analysis to get the beer where we wanted it. So we did 8 days on 2 kilos and it was nearly there. So we did another 2 kilos for 4 days and then packaged today. And it's, yeah, we pulled it off, let me tell you. So heaps happy with it. It's going to be online as of today's date. I think it will sell quite fast, so get in if you want to try it. And then I think we'll do another video down the track, maybe a bit of a debrief on what we did and what I'd change, but heaps happy with it, very happy. Buy it online and you can come to the tap house and try it. Fresh is best, brewers, you know that. If you buy it online, if you get the chance, we only did 50 cartons. The rest is going over the bar. Pour it into a glass so you get that aroma. Let it heat up to about 4-5 degrees C. That's when the aroma of the tea's at its highest. We had heaps of fun doing this one. And now we're going to Europe on Wednesday. So look out for that. We're going to do another brewer and the hooer on tour. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support of the channel. If you haven't subscribed, do us a favour and subscribe. It helps us grow the channel. Hooroo. See you on the next vid. That was really good. Thank you. Hooroo. We're still canning too, brewers. It's the sort of shit I do for you. I'm still canning. Roll the credits. Hooroo.